In the quiet moments that follow heartbreak, when reality feels distorted and the mind races through memories, unexpected propositions can arise from the most unlikely sources. For Frank, an ordinary man suddenly entangled in a web of infidelity and betrayal, the moment he found himself face to face with Al, a stunning woman who was no stranger to his own wife, was nothing short of surreal. Her playful challenge turned his world upside down, stirring feelings of anger, confusion, and a strange thrill of potential revenge. As she boldly suggested he take on a role he never imagined, Frank realized that this twisted situation could either shatter him or propel him into a new chapter he never expected to navigate. In a world where loyalty crumbled and deceit reigned, the stakes were higher than ever, and the game was just beginning. A shattering discovery, the fragility of trust. It's hard to fathom how someone can wake up in the morning, enjoy a lovely day together, go to work, and then have their entire marriage come crashing down in just a few hours. It's both astonishing and utterly devastating. Infidelity is one of the most insidious threats to a marriage, and the harsh reality is that no one is immune to it. The morning started like any other. My alarm buzzed at 5 o'clock a.m., and when I tried to get out of bed, my wife Diana pulled me back under the covers. She kissed me and wrapped her arms around me, and even after 25 years, she still had that undeniable allure. I felt a surge of intimacy and affection. After our tender moment, Diana went to make coffee while I jumped in the shower. Once I was done, I prepared breakfast and we sat together, chatting about our plans for the day. "What do you think about meatloaf and baked potatoes for dinner?" Diana suggested with a bright smile. "That sounds delicious. I'll swing by the bakery for some fresh French bread and maybe a pecan pie," I replied. "Pecan pie? You spoil me," she teased, laughter dancing in her eyes. "I wouldn't dream of spoiling anyone else," I said, leaning in for a kiss as we held hands, stepping out to the garage to start our day. The commute to work was uneventful, as was the first part of the morning. Around 11 a.m., however, my boss, Harry, called me into his office. The gravity in his voice made my stomach drop. "We have a situation in St. Louis," he said gravely. "Baker found Smithers with his wife, and now Baker's in jail while Smithers is in the hospital. There's no one to manage the office there. I hate to spring this on you at the last minute, but you need to catch the 2:20 flight to St. Louis and take charge of the office," Harry continued. "I'm not sure how long you'll need to stay. It all depends on how bad the situation is between Baker and Smithers. If it's serious, Baker might be locked up for a while and Smithers may need time to recover." I nodded, absorbing the news. The thought of those two men caught in such a twisted mess was troubling. "So, what are your thoughts? It seems pretty straightforward." Smithers crossed a line getting involved with Baker's wife. He had to know Baker would react. "I can't confirm the details yet," Harry said, shaking his head. "All I know is what the secretary told me. You'll have to gather more information once you're there." I attempted to call Diana to fill her in, but the secretary informed me she was in a meeting. I promised to touch base later, then headed home to pack. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Diana's car parked there, which struck me as odd. She was supposed to be at a meeting. Upon entering the living room, my suspicions were confirmed, but not in the way I expected. A trail of discarded clothing led from the couch to the staircase. Among the garments, I spotted a pair of men's trousers at the bottom of the stairs. Curiosity piqued. I picked them up and found a wallet nestled in one of the back pockets. The name Stanton North was engraved on the driver's license inside. I slipped the wallet into my pocket, feeling a knot of unease tighten in my stomach. A sport coat draped over an armchair caught my eye, and upon closer inspection, I discovered a checkbook. I pocketed that as well, my mind racing. As I ascended the stairs, I heard voices coming from the bedroom. "Do it to me quickly. Do you like it?" The realization hit me like a freight train. I couldn't believe my ears. I approached the door, heart pounding. When I entered, I was met with a sight I never thought I would witness. My wife, caught in a compromising position with her lover. The betrayal stung deeply. Diana was perched on the bed, her eyes closed, lost in the moment, while Stanton paused mid-action, his shock evident. "Diana!" I called out, and in that instant, she seemed to come to her senses. "Oh God, no!" she screamed as she attempted to hide from my view. I barely registered her panic as I turned to the closet. "Don't mind me," I said coldly. "I'm just here to pack a bag and let you two lovebirds continue." I grabbed socks and underwear, trying to maintain my composure while their voices hung heavily in the air. Diana's desperate pleas echoed behind me. "Get away from me!" she shouted, while Stanton muttered, "What a mess!" Ignoring them, I continued to pack, focusing on gathering my things. Suddenly, I heard the front door slam. Where was Stanton going? Diana's car was the only one in the driveway, which meant he must have arrived with her. I continued to stuff my belongings into the suitcase, determined not to let their drama distract me. "Frank, please don't leave, let's talk," Diana cried as I headed for the door. I stepped outside, ignoring her frantic calls, feeling numb. As I approached my car, I looked around for Stanton but saw no sign of him. Maybe he was hiding, waiting for the moment to return. Just as I was about to drive away, Diana sprinted down the walkway, almost reaching for the passenger side door handle as I pulled away from the curb. It's a miracle I made it to the airport without crashing. My mind was a whirlwind of chaos. How could this happen? How could Diana betray me like this? The questions swirled in my head as I tried to process the unimaginable reality I had just witnessed. My marriage was shattered in an instant, leaving me with nothing but a suitcase full of memories and a heart full of pain. As I sat reflecting on the life Diane and I had built together, a deep sense of disbelief washed over me. I struggled to reconcile the love we had shared with the betrayal I had just witnessed. My God, how could she have betrayed me so completely? Acting as if everything was normal just that morning, only to turn around and engage in something so deceitful. Diane and I first crossed paths when my father received a promotion, prompting our family to relocate 1,500 miles away. The transition was hard on me. I was uprooted from the friends I had known my entire life and thrust into a new school where I didn't know a soul. Lunchtime became particularly lonely. I often found myself sitting alone at a table, lost in my own thoughts and feeling sorry for myself. That's when she appeared, the most stunning girl I had ever seen. She approached my table with a warm smile, extending her hand across the expanse. "Hey there, new kid. I'm Diane," she said, her voice bright and inviting. It took me a moment to realize she was offering her hand to shake. I accepted, introducing myself in return. "Hello, Diane. I'm Frank. Where are you from?" As we chatted, I learned that Diane understood exactly what I was going through. She had faced a similar situation the year before. By the time the lunch bell rang, we had forged a connection and made plans for her to show me around town. Over the next 6 weeks, we fell into a serious relationship, typical for teenagers navigating their first love. As a hormone-driven young man, I naturally wanted to take our relationship to the next level. However, Diane held firm to a promise she had made to her mother, to remain a virgin until marriage. It was frustrating, but I respected her wishes. Fortunately, on her 18th birthday, she decided to break that promise, and it changed everything between us. After that significant moment, we sat down for an important conversation. I expressed my desire to marry her, but I wanted to wait until after I graduated from college. Diane, however, was eager to tie the knot immediately. Our discussions turned heated, especially when I sought my mother's advice. Surprisingly, my mother suggested, "Why don't you move in together until you graduate?" I hesitated, citing financial concerns. I was worried about how I could support both a wife and my education at the same time. My mother reassured me, pointing out that my college fund was substantial enough to cover rent for a small off-campus apartment. "You might need to work part-time to cover groceries, but it's doable," she said. After mulling it over, I approached Diane with the idea. To my relief, she agreed, and together we began searching for a modest place that fit our budget. The next hurdle was breaking the news to her parents. When we finally did, the reaction was explosive. Diane's mother was devastated that her daughter had not upheld her promise. She wept uncontrollably, while her father hurled insults at me, both old grievances and fresh accusations. He forbade us from seeing each other again, insisting that Diane cut ties with me completely. In a moment of quiet defiance, Diane gestured for me to wait in the car while she faced her parents alone. When she returned 10 minutes later, she had 2 suitcases in tow. She never told me what happened during that encounter, but it took 3 years for her to speak to her parents again, only to inform them of their grandson. Suddenly, I had become the model partner in their eyes. They praised me endlessly, but I held on to my resentment. While Diane eventually forgave them, I merely tolerated their presence. They became wonderful grandparents to our 3 children, but the emotional scars from that initial fallout lingered. As our children grew and began their own journeys, I took solace in the thought that they wouldn't have to endure the pain of divorced parents. I arrived at the airport well ahead of schedule, completing the check-in process with time to spare. I settled into one of the many coffee shops in the terminal, eagerly awaiting the boarding announcement for my flight. While rifling through my wallet, I came across a checkbook tucked behind my driver's license. That's when I noticed an emergency contact card for my wife, listing all the necessary information. But what really caught my attention was the emergency contact section, which listed a woman named Allie North as his wife, complete with a contact number. I hesitated, then dialed the number on my cell phone. "Hello, is this Mrs. North?" "Yes, it is. Who is this?" "My name is Frank Bello. I regret to inform you that I found your husband in a compromising situation with my wife, and I felt you should be aware." "You must be joking," she exclaimed, her disbelief palpable. "I'm afraid not, ma'am. I refuse to believe you, Mr. Whoever you are. My husband would never betray me like that," she shot back, defensive and hurt. "Here's what I recommend. When he returns home tonight, ask him if he knows Diane Bello, then request to see his wallet and checkbook. He won't be able to produce them because I have them. I took them from his clothes after finding them on my living room floor earlier today. I'm at the airport right now waiting for a flight to St. Louis. When I return, I'll gladly deliver them to you in person." "Are you completely serious about this?" she asked, a mix of shock and concern in her voice. "I am," I confirmed. "I'm not sure when I'll be back. I need to fill in for someone who's out sick at work until they can return. Could you mail the wallet and checkbook to me?" "I suppose I could, but I should warn you, your husband's wallet contains $87. After what I witnessed, I have a pressing need to drown my sorrows with a drink, and your husband will be covering the tab. There might be some money left, but I can't say how much." "Send it to my office," she instructed, providing me with the address as I jotted it down. "If you can send it overnight, I'll reimburse you." "I can manage that. My flight is boarding now, so I have to go." I bid her farewell and ended the call, my heart racing. As I made my way to the gate, I felt the weight of my actions pressing down on me. How had it come to this? How had love turned into betrayal, and what would the future hold for all of us? Initially, my plan was simple. I intended to leave his wallet and credit cards on the bathroom counter, hoping that whoever stumbled upon them would indulge in a spending spree. But everything changed after I spoke to his wife. I had hoped she would make his life a living nightmare, stirring up chaos and drama. My phone buzzed incessantly since I left the house, mostly with Diane calling, but I chose to ignore it. Just as I exited the coffee shop, my phone rang again. Assuming it was Diane once more, I glanced at the screen. Surprisingly, it was a call from the office. "Frank, you need to call home. Diane just called me, frantic because she can't reach you," Harry said urgently when I returned the call. "There's a reason for that, Harry. I'm avoiding her calls. When I went home to pack, she was there, and not alone. She was engaging in some pretty inappropriate behavior. I'll talk to her when I return. Maybe by then I'll have cooled off enough not to throttle her. Do yourself a favor and make sure the receptionist doesn't put her calls through." After ensuring everything was running smoothly in the office and addressing any immediate concerns, my first priority was to head to the post office. I needed to send Mrs. Smithers her husband's wallet and checkbook. I included my contact information, just in case she had questions. With that task checked off my list, I called the police to inquire about Baker's situation and whether I could visit him. When I finally saw Baker, he looked relatively unharmed aside from some bruises and a broken finger. He hadn't had a bail hearing yet. Authorities were awaiting updates from the hospital regarding Smithers' condition to determine the charges. I relayed Harry's concerns and asked Baker for his account of what happened. His story sounded familiar. He had returned home during his lunch break to grab something he had forgotten, only to walk in on Smithers in a compromising position with his wife. In the ensuing confrontation, Baker injured Smithers, who then called 911, claiming that Baker posed a threat. My next stop was the hospital, where I was supposed to visit Smithers. He had multiple fractures and was dealing with a bruised ego, but he managed to defend himself. "It's not my fault she attacked me first," he insisted. "I'm single and enjoy female company like any guy. If anyone's to blame, it's Baker. If he had taken care of her properly, she wouldn't have been looking for trouble." I had no sympathy for him. I called Harry to inform him of the situation and advised him to move Smithers out of the office unless there were grounds for his dismissal. I promised to investigate thoroughly to find anything that Harry could use. Baker's hearing was scheduled for the next day, with bail set at $250,000. He could only afford it by putting up his house as collateral, but his wife refused to consent, leaving him stuck in jail until his father and brother could figure something out. The following morning at 9:30, Al called me. She recounted how, upon her husband's return home, she confronted him about knowing Diane Bello, his complexion drained as he denied knowing her. But when pressed further, he hesitantly admitted uncertainty. Al then asked about his wallet and checkbook, to which he sheepishly confessed that he had left them on his desk at work. He quickly tried to change the subject, asking about dinner, seemingly aware of the trouble he was in, yet oblivious to the full extent of his predicament. "Any insights into the duration of their affair?" I asked, probing for more information. "All I can confirm is that it happened. I stumbled upon them and promptly exited. As for my wife's perspective, I'm completely in the dark. I haven't exchanged a word with her since that night, and I won't until I return home. When you do speak with her, give me a call. I'd like to cross-reference their accounts." "Absolutely. I'm eager to hear both sides, too." Throughout the day, I received numerous calls from Diane, but I chose to ignore them. Harry must have informed her of my whereabouts in St. Louis, and she probably got the office number from the help desk. Dixie, our receptionist, informed me about a call on the third line, which turned out to belong to Diane. "What do you want, Diane?" I answered curtly. "We need to talk, Frank. I need to make it clear that what happened is not what you believe at all. I'm not interested in talking to you right now. I'm still in the stage where I want to do something to you and then go after your lover with a gun in my hands." "He's not my lover." "Just leave it alone, Diane. Don't call here anymore. We'll discuss this when I get home, not a minute earlier," I said before hanging up. Later that afternoon, Baker's father called to inform me that bail had been posted and Baker would be released the next morning. Hearing this news filled me with regret. As long as Baker remained in prison and Smithers was hospitalized, I could avoid going home to face Diane. That evening, I once again dined and had drinks at Al's place, returning to my room around 7 o'clock. The phone rang, and since only Harry and Al had my number, I answered. It was Al. After exchanging greetings, she updated me on her end of things. When Baker arrived home, I asked him again about his wallet and checkbook. He claimed they were missing from his office when he arrived, blaming the night cleaning crew and saying he'd file a complaint the next morning. I couldn't help but chuckle. How long did he think he could keep avoiding the truth? "I have no idea, but I'm putting an end to it," I replied. I confronted him about his deception and made it clear that he knew he was caught when I brought up your wife, and then asked for his wallet and checkbook. There was only one way I could have connected the dots, and he knew it. He had the audacity to deny knowing what I was talking about, and that infuriated me. In a fit of anger, I pulled his wallet and checkbook out of my purse and hurled them at him. I made it clear how I had come to possess them, revealing that I had called his office and discovered he was working closely with the very woman he claimed to not know. Just to push his buttons, I even embellished the story a bit, saying that when he returned from St. Louis, he'd show me the photos he took on his cell phone before they realized he was there. How did he react, you might wonder? It didn't take long for him to understand he was caught. He broke down, pleading for forgiveness and insisting that this was a one-time mistake. He claimed he couldn't resist because his wife had been pursuing him for months, making it hard to turn down the advances of a beautiful woman eager for his affection. It's unfortunate I wasn't more clear-headed when I stumbled upon them, I thought. I do have a camera on my phone, I just didn't think to use it. Do you believe his story about her pursuing him? I asked myself. It's possible. She wouldn't be the first woman to chase after a man in a troubled marriage, but was it really just a one-time thing with her? While that could be true, I was sure he was lying when he claimed it was his only act of infidelity. I knew of at least 3 other times he had been unfaithful while I was away visiting family. I never confronted him about those instances because, honestly, I didn't want to know if they were true. You mentioned that his claim about Diane pursuing him could be accurate, I said to a friend who had been supportive through this ordeal. But why did you express that? Stan is quite gifted in that department, and some women are naturally curious to verify what they hear. A week ago, I never would have imagined Diane doing something like this, my friend replied. But that was before I caught her and your husband together. I had to leave then, but I promised to keep my friend updated. If I find out anything else, I'll let you know. And remember, I want to hear her side of the story when you talk to her. At 11 o'clock the following morning, Ray Baker called me, letting me know he had been released on bail. He explained that he needed the rest of the day and the following day to handle personal matters. His wife had secured a restraining order against him. He had to figure out temporary housing and coordinate with the court to retrieve his belongings from their home. I'll be back in the office on Thursday, he added, and I assured him I'd keep things running smoothly until then. After our call, I reached out to Harry to fill him in on the situation. I also shared that during my investigation at the office, I had uncovered discrepancies in Smithers' expense reports, which could justify his termination. I indicated that I planned to return home Thursday evening and would need to take Friday off to deal with my own matters, aiming to be back at work on Monday morning. I successfully navigated the following 2 days without any issues, and by Thursday morning, Ray was back at work. After updating him on office matters, I asked how things were going at home since I was dealing with a similar situation. The restraining order says I need to stay 500 feet away from her, he explained, frustration evident in his voice. I can go into the house when she's not there. If she refuses to leave when I want to enter, I'll have to involve someone from the court. He paused, taking a deep breath. I waited until she went to work. Then my brother and I went in and got what I needed. I have no intention of going back. He looked exasperated as he continued. I don't understand what she's thinking. She got the order, but that's it. She didn't touch the bank accounts. I emptied them out yesterday. Wait, I interjected. I thought this state operated on a no-fault basis, meaning assets are typically split evenly in a divorce. Ray clarified, that's true for divorce, but I'm not pursuing that route. I'm simply walking away. If she wants a divorce, she'll have to foot the bill. By the time she files, our assets will be minimal. We took out a second mortgage on the house to renovate the basement, so there's no equity left, and the money I withdrew from the bank will be spent. I can argue that I needed it for my new living arrangements after she barred me from the house. Oh, and I need to call Harry to update my insurance and other paperwork. Has she explained her actions to you? I asked, genuinely curious. I haven't had any communication with her since the police took me in, and I don't plan on speaking with her. The reason behind her actions is irrelevant. What matters is that she committed them. That night, I opted to rest well before facing Diane at home. I contacted the airline and booked a morning flight. Upon waking up, I felt refreshed and enjoyed a hearty breakfast before catching the airport shuttle, arriving back in Denver by 11 o'clock. Afterward, I visited the bank, withdrew funds from our savings, and redeemed 5 out of 9 certificates of deposit from the safety deposit box. I transferred all the funds into our checking account. Diane was still at work when I returned, leaving me alone until 6 o'clock. I used that time wisely, contacting credit card companies to obtain payoff balances and subsequently canceling all but 5 cards. I kept the American Express card primarily used for business expenses and assigned 2 others to Diane's name. After that, I returned to the bank to arrange wire transfers to settle the card balances using our checking account funds. With those tasks completed, I opened a new checking account solely in my name and secured another safety deposit box, placing 2 of the remaining CDs inside. Finally, I headed back home, where I had converted one of the kids' bedrooms into a home office and den, preparing for the next chapter of my life. After moving into one of the spare bedrooms adjacent to the den, I finally settled in by the time Diane returned home. I heard her enter the house calling out, "Frank, where are you?" I decided to ignore her, listening instead as she searched the house for me. Eventually, I heard her footsteps ascend the stairs, and I kept my back turned when she entered the room. "Frank," she called again, her voice a mix of concern and impatience. I remained silent, and after a moment she added, "Frank, please, we need to talk." Finally, I turned to face her and my frustration boiled over. "Where is it written that I have to engage in conversation with someone who's been unfaithful?" I shot back. I could see her flinch at my words, but I pressed on. "However, we do need to discuss our finances." "Finances? Why?" she questioned, clearly taken aback. "Because your actions have necessitated changes," I replied coldly. "Please, go downstairs and take a seat at the kitchen table. I'll join you shortly." Once she left, I gathered the papers I had been working on and selected the necessary ones before heading downstairs to find Diane already sitting at the kitchen table, looking uneasy. I took a seat across from her and began to explain. While I was away, I had plenty of time to think about what needed to be done. Ultimately, I've decided to take no action regarding our marriage. Ididiki. I noticed a flicker of relief wash over her face, but it quickly faded when I added, "By no action, I mean I intend to have minimal, if any, involvement with you. Frankly, I don't see the point in spending money on divorce attorneys, especially considering my age and the unlikelihood of finding another partner in my future. If you want a divorce, you can pursue it at your own expense. However, there will be some adjustments." I proceeded to outline our financial arrangements regarding credit cards, savings accounts, CDs, and our joint checking account. "You can keep the original safety deposit box, but I suggest opening your own checking and savings accounts. We'll maintain the joint account for house expenses. Do you understand so far?" "But why are you doing this?" Diane asked, bewildered. "Don't play dumb, Diane. Now, as for the household account, it will cover shared expenses." I handed her a sheet of paper. "This lists the essential costs of running the household: mortgage, utilities, phone, gas, water, sewage, taxes, and insurance. From now on, we're essentially roommates. You'll need to deposit half of the total amount listed here into the household account each month. We'll share the house except for 2 rooms. You'll keep the master bedroom, and I'll take Carol's old room." "Why are you moving into Carol's room? You should be in the master bedroom with me," she insisted. After witnessing what had transpired in that room, I had no intention of sleeping in that bed or having anything to do with the woman I saw engaging in those activities. After what I saw, there's no way I'm sleeping in the master bedroom with you. "Frank, what you witnessed isn't what you're assuming," she pleaded. "Of course it is. I saw you with another man in our house on our bed." "All right, Frank," she replied, her voice steadier now. "But you need to realize it was just physical intimacy. There was no emotional connection. It was merely satisfying my curiosity. I love you, Frank. I always have and always will." My feelings for Stan were purely lustful, a one-time occurrence driven by curiosity. If you hadn't come home, you wouldn't have known, and it wouldn't have happened again. "But Diane, that's the issue. I did come home, and I know what happened. Knowing this changes everything. You've betrayed my trust, and that means I can't rely on you anymore. Every word you say now needs scrutiny to discern truth from falsehood. Can love coexist with betrayal and disrespect? Can you really claim to love me while bringing another man into our home and sharing our bed? The same bed where we would have slept together?" Her silence spoke volumes as I continued. "How much love and respect did you show me by offering me the leftovers of another man, knowing we could have made love that night?" "No, Diane, I can't trust you anymore. Can't trust. You say it was a one-time mistake, but how can I believe you? I have only your assurance, yet your credibility is shattered. It could have been the 10th time already, with plans for more. Regardless, even if it were true, you still betrayed me. You violated the vows we took together. What drove you to jeopardize our marriage? What curiosity was worth risking everything?" Diane looked away, her gaze drifting. The size of his instrument. You've got to be kidding me. The size of his instrument? Why on earth would that interest you? I asked incredulously. Some of the girls in the office were with him, and they wouldn't stop talking about how great it was. I heard all their stories, but I didn't pay much attention until he started showing interest in me. Even then, it took me a while to think about it. Are you saying he was the first to show signs of interest? I pressed. I suppose so, but I didn't think much of it at first. Still, I liked the attention. What kind of woman doesn't enjoy feeling attractive? At my age, the attention of a man 10 years younger really boosted my self-esteem. I had lunch with him a couple of times and danced with him at office parties. It was during those dances that I thought more about the stories I'd heard. I felt him leaning in close, and he seemed genuinely attractive to me. The more I thought about it, the more curious I became. So you're saying the other girls in the office were talking about Stan's prowess in bed? How many girls are we talking about? About 7 of them, she admitted, her eyes darting away. So Stan had relationships with 7 women in your office? That's what they claimed? Yeah. Stan seemed to be very promiscuous. Have you ever thought that someone who has had so many partners could carry an infection? I countered. Come on, Frank. If that were the case, these girls would likely have been infected by him, and believe me, word would have spread around the office instantly. You may have an STI without any symptoms, Diane. Sometimes it can take months for it to show up. Before any symptoms appear, I strongly suggest you consider getting tested. Frank's voice was steady, but beneath it lay a current of concern. The thing is, Stan doesn't matter to me at all. There's no love between us, not even a flicker of sympathy. Diana met his gaze, her expression a mix of defiance and regret. That's not the impression I got when I walked into the room, she countered, her voice softening. You know how much I enjoy intimacy, Frank, and you're well aware of how excessive I can be at times with you. I made some noise. I didn't have any special feelings for Stan. It was a mistake, a serious mistake that I deeply regret. I promise you it won't happen again. I love you, Frankie, and you can't throw away 25 years of a good relationship because of one misstep. I'm not giving up on anything, Frank shot back, his frustration boiling to the surface. You're the one who jeopardized everything by bringing another man into our home, into our bed. With that, he rose from the kitchen table, feeling the weight of their history pressing down on him as he retreated to his office, drowning himself in paperwork. As a light sleeper, Frank found it hard to shake the tension of the evening. About an hour after he climbed into bed, he was jolted awake by the sound of the bedroom door creaking open. Diana slipped in quietly, her movements careful as she closed the door behind her. The summer heat left Frank lying on top of the covers, and he felt a wave of confusion wash over him as she leaned over him, clearly seeking something more. But rather than welcoming her with open arms, Frank felt an instinctual pushback. Leave me alone, Dee. I'm not interested in being someone's leftover, he said firmly. Disappointment flashed in her eyes before she turned away, tears streaming down her cheeks as she left the room. After about 20 minutes of tossing and turning, Frank finally drifted back to sleep, uninterrupted for the rest of the night. The next morning, he came downstairs to find Diana making coffee in the kitchen. He greeted her with an indifferent grunt, maintaining a wall between them until the coffee was ready. Filling his travel mug, he rushed out the door, barely sparing her a glance. Later that morning, around 10, he dialed Allie, his confidant. You won't believe what I found out. 7 other women. That's what she claims, he relayed, disbelief lacing his voice. It seems your husband was quite the charmer at the office. Do you trust her version of events? Before I walked in on her and your husband, I would have believed anything she said, even if she claimed the sun was rising in the west. But now, I'm not so sure. Maybe she's just trying to downplay it, make me think it wasn't a big deal. Who knows? Trust went out the window when she got caught. Everything she says now has to be taken with a grain of salt. Have you made a decision about what to do? The marriage is over, but if there's going to be a divorce, she'll have to initiate it. Right now, my plan is just to coexist. We'll be roommates, Nothing more. I refused to ruin myself financially because she couldn't keep her fidelity intact. And you? Allie pressed. I'm still weighing my options. Let's keep in touch, okay? Of course. Best of luck to you. The following week, Frank made a point to be out and about before Diana woke up, finding ways to keep himself occupied until late to avoid returning home. Despite her attempts to wait up for him, he deliberately ignored her presence. When the next weekend rolled around, she tried once more to join him in bed, but he firmly told her to stay away. Frank, please don't do this to me. I love you, and I want to be with you, she pleaded, desperation lacing her words. I don't want you, Diana. You've caused irreparable damage, he replied, feeling the sting of betrayal with every syllable. Oh God, Frank, it was just one mistake. I haven't even spoken to him since he left. Please, give me another chance. I know I was wrong and I'm deeply sorry. I swear it won't happen again, she implored, her voice cracking. The issue, Diana, is that I can't be sure it was only once. He could have been your third, fourth, or even 10th lover. You might still be seeing him during your lunch breaks, Frank explained, the weight of her betrayal heavy in the air. When I caught you with him, you shattered my trust, and I can't trust you to be honest with me again. Please, Frank, there must be a way to mend things between us. I'll do anything, absolutely anything, she begged, tears glistening in her eyes. I'm sorry, Diana, but there's no chance for us to reconcile because I don't want to reconcile. Seeing you with North, wrapped around him, and hearing you beg for more killed any feelings I had left for you. But look at it positively. You're free to explore your desires now. Just not here. This house is neutral ground. Take your partners elsewhere, and I'll do the same. Partners? I can't live without a love life. I had opportunities, but I stayed faithful because of our vows. You broke yours, which released me from mine. At least I won't bring my affairs here where you can see them. She glanced at him, and he could tell she believed that by sharing the house and spending time together, she could gradually reintegrate herself into his life. That was exactly what he wanted her to think, and he decided to put the burden of responsibility on her shoulders. The only reason I'm agreeing to this arrangement is that I'm not keen on enriching lawyers through a divorce, and I'm not willing to give up the comforts of my home. Losing access to my garage, workshop, and patio isn't something I'm willing to sacrifice. You have two options, Diana. Either adapt to this new situation or not. If you choose the latter, you can either move out or take over the house payments and expenses while I find another place to live. You claim to love me genuinely, so here's your opportunity to demonstrate it. Either accept cohabitation or take the house, thereby depriving me of my garage and patio, just as you deprived me of my wife. The decision is yours. Is there any room for negotiation? She asked, her voice quiet. I fail to see how, Frank replied, his patience thinning. She remained silent for a moment before delivering the final blow. What are your plans for the photos, Frank? The photos? The ones you captured on your cell phone? His heart sank. Hadn't she told North she hadn't spoken to him since he stormed out? How did she know about the cell phone photos? That narrative had been concocted by Allie and relayed to her days after he caught Diana and North in their bedroom. Frank felt a cold wave of realization wash over him. He couldn't trust anything Diana said. I couldn't bring myself to inflict physical harm on her, and throwing her out of the house would only lead to more trouble than it was worth. Instead, I settled on the silent treatment, a form of mental torment that, while perhaps not as satisfying as physical revenge, was the best I could muster. I knew Diane still held on to some flicker of hope for our relationship, clinging to the chance of redemption. But for me, that chance had vanished the moment I saw her with Stanton North. The longer she lingered in that hope, the longer my plan for revenge could unfold. With my vendetta against Diane firmly in place, I turned my attention to North. The private investigators I'd hired had confirmed my suspicions. Despite being caught in the act by both me and his wife, he hadn't changed his ways at all. He was still juggling affairs with 5 different women alongside his marriage. During the 3 weeks the investigators tracked him, there was no indication of contact with Diane, but he was entangled with two of her colleagues. One of them, Mary Ellen Bingham, had a husband who worked the afternoon shift every Tuesday and Thursday. After work, North would slip away to visit her at her home on Sunflower Way, staying for a couple of hours. As I glanced at my watch, I realized he was due to leave the Bingham residence in about 10 minutes. I had parked a block away, across the street, and now stepped out of my car, making my way toward the Bingham home. I circled around behind the garage, donning latex gloves and a ski mask. Mary Ellen had a 3-car garage. After his visit, North would drive in, park, and quickly close the door to keep the neighbors from prying into his little secret. Using a small tire iron, I broke the lock on the back door of the garage and waited for North to appear. As the door leading into the house opened, he stepped outside, only to be greeted by the shocked gaze of Mary Ellen, who had been watching him leave. Before she could process what was happening, I struck. With the discharge of a 50,000-volt stun gun, North convulsed on the garage floor. "Listen closely," I said, trying to keep my tone calm and collected. "If you make a sound or call the authorities, your husband will find out everything. It's best if you go back inside and act like nothing is happening out here. I won't kill him, but another betrayed husband will see justice today." Mary Ellen recoiled, shutting the door behind her. I knew she recognized me from the gatherings Diane had dragged me to, but I relied on the ski mask and my altered voice to conceal my identity. I couldn't risk her calling the police, so I had to act swiftly. Once North was out of his pants, I took my revenge. He was so proud of his possessions, wasn't he? Well, he'd pay dearly for that arrogance. I unleashed a flurry of punches before grabbing my wallet and checkbook and making a hasty exit. The silence in the air suggested that Mary Ellen hadn't alerted anyone. As I drove away, I reflected on my actions, uncertain about the extent of the damage I had inflicted with the cattle prod. Each scream from North brought a twisted sense of satisfaction. I never discovered how things played out with Mary Ellen. Did she manage to sneak North out without alerting anyone, leaving her husband blissfully unaware? Or did she have to call for help, leading to a complicated explanation with her husband? Still wearing my latex gloves, I packaged my wallet and checkbook and sent it to Al at her office, attaching no note and denying any knowledge of it. But when her husband returned home in pain and opened the package, I had no doubt she would suspect who was behind it. 3 weeks after my encounter with North, I received a call from Al. "Are you free for lunch?" she asked, her tone light yet purposeful. "I haven't made any plans. Why do you ask?" "I think it's time for us to meet face to face. How about noon at Leo's? I'll be the red-haired woman nervously scanning every man who enters, trying to figure out which one is you. Noon works for me." When I arrived, I didn't see her scanning the room, but she was easy to spot. She was the only redhead in the place, sitting alone at a table. Stanton North was a complete fool for cheating on her. She was stunning. I approached her table and said, "Mrs. North?" "No, Frank, it's Al. You haven't called me Mrs. North since our first conversation." I took a seat across from her, intrigued. "May I ask what prompted you to invite me to lunch?" "I just wanted to get a good look at the man who keeps messing up my life." "Messing up your life? How so?" "You made me face the truth." I suspected what he was doing, but hoped it wasn't true. Despite my doubts, I gave him another chance at your insistence. But then you stripped him of his greatest power. "I'm not following you." "Yes, you are. Stan may be a good provider and a decent father, but what made him exceptional was his skills in the bedroom. Pay attention to that past tense. Am I responsible for that?" "Don't play innocent, Frank. We both know who hurt him so badly." "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Of course you don't want to admit it. But since your little encounter, no matter what you do to him, he can't work. Don't pretend you don't understand what I mean. Your signature technique is mailing wallets." Just then, the waitress approached to take our orders. While Al ordered a salad and iced tea, I discreetly assessed her. Clearly, her husband was a fool to stay home. Besides being beautiful, Al proved to be quite perceptive. "Well?" she prompted, raising an eyebrow. "What are you thinking?" "What do you mean?" "You didn't expect me to notice you checking me out just now." I was caught off guard, but I managed a sheepish grin. "Who, me?" "Yes, you. And I hope you like what you see, because the real purpose of this little gathering is to offer something to you." I wasn't sure what expression crossed my face, but she continued, captivating my attention completely. I was taken aback by her unexpected proposal. "I'm a pretty attractive girl," she said with a playful smirk. And since you took the toy away from me, I think it's only fair that you step into his shoes. Caught off guard, I struggled to find the right words. You've got to be kidding, I finally managed, to which she chuckled, clearly enjoying my confusion. I bet you didn't see this coming, did you? To be honest, it never even crossed my mind, I admitted. Well, Frank, she continued, leaning in with a conspiratorial grin. You've deprived me of a partner, so why not? Besides, what better way to get back at your wife and my husband? The idea was tempting, but I hesitated. I'm not sure, Al. If I give Diana a reason to file for divorce, it could complicate my situation even more. She raised an eyebrow, her grin widening. Oh, come on. You're not actually going to divorce her, are you? I mean, look at the situation. Her playful demeanor made me question my own sanity. You're mischievous, aren't you? I remarked, half laughing. But I'm worried about the fallout if I do this. Don't worry, she said confidently. I don't plan on spreading this around. If Stan doesn't get the right to use his equipment again, I'm divorcing him anyway. I don't want to give him grounds for a counterclaim. Wait, you're serious? I asked, trying to wrap my head around the implications. Absolutely. This affair with Al North has been going on for over a year, and there's no end in sight. His performance issues aren't physical. The doctors say it's psychological. He's supposed to stay with me until the end of the year, but if he still can't perform, he's out. My mind raced as I processed her words. So Diana knows you're dating someone, but she doesn't know who. Exactly. The realization that I'm with someone else is eating her up inside, but she's still clinging to the hope of a miracle that isn't coming. A part of me felt a surge of satisfaction at the thought of getting back at my wife through her. I couldn't have asked for a better form of revenge.